The birthday cake was shaped like a middle finger, and I should have taken the hint. "Mark, darling, could you get me another martini?" Laura's voice carried that special tone she reserved for treating me like hired help at my own house. She was draped across our leather sectional like she owned the world, surrounded by her usual gaggle of suburban vultures. The party was in full swing, our living room packed with neighbors and Laura's event planning clients, all pretending this wasn't the most awkward birthday celebration in recent memory. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'd been married to Laura for 12 years, and somewhere around year 8, I'd stopped being her husband and started being her prop. Mark the real estate agent, reliable Mark who paid for everything, boring Mark who didn't understand Laura's evolving needs. Tonight, watching her flirt shamelessly with Alex Morrison while her friends giggled like teenagers, I realized I'd finally had enough. Alex was Laura's new fitness trainer, all sculpted abs and cocky grins. He drove a red Porsche and wore tank tops that showed off his gym-earned physique, the kind of guy who called everyone bro and took selfies at the grocery store. Laura had been training with him for 3 months now, coming home glowing and energized in ways that had nothing to do with cardio. "Earth to Mark," Ellen Hartley called out, Laura's best friend and chief enabler. "Your wife asked for a drink." "Right." I headed to the kitchen, passing groups of guests who stopped talking when I approached. The whispers followed me like a bad cologne. Everyone knew except the husband. It was a suburban cliché so old it had its own zip code. In the kitchen, I found Sarah Mitchell washing glasses. Sarah was Laura's other close friend, but unlike Ellen, she actually seemed to have a conscience. She was quieter than the rest of Laura's crowd, more thoughtful. We'd had several conversations over the years that felt surprisingly genuine. "You okay, Mark?" she asked, not looking up from the sink. "Never better, just living the dream." I started mixing Laura's martini, extra dirty, which seemed appropriate. "You don't have to pretend with me." I paused, olive jar in hand. "Pretend what?" "That you don't know about Alex." The olive slipped from my fingers and plopped into the gin. "Ah. I'm sorry, Mark. I wanted to tell you, but Laura's your friend." I stirred the drink mechanically. "How long have you known?" 2 months, maybe more." Sarah dried her hands on a dish towel, finally meeting my eyes. She's not being subtle about it. From the living room came Laura's distinctive laugh, bright and performative. She was holding court, probably telling the story about how she'd revolutionized the Henderson wedding with her vision. Laura loved her visions, especially when they involved other people's money. "She announced something earlier," Sarah continued, "about new rules for you." "New rules?" "She's planning to ask for an open marriage, tonight in front of everyone. She thinks it'll be easier if there are witnesses, harder for you to say no." I stared at the martini. The olive looked like a tiny green eyeball watching me drown. "An open marriage." She's been talking about it for weeks. How marriage is an outdated institution. How people need freedom to grow. Ellen thinks it's brilliant. Of course she does. I picked up the drink. "Well, this should be interesting." Sarah caught my arm as I turned to leave. "Mark, what are you going to do?" I looked back at her, this woman who'd just shown me more consideration than my wife had in months. "I'm going to give Laura exactly what she wants. New rules." The living room buzzed with conversation and laughter. Laura had moved closer to Alex on the couch, her hand resting on his thigh with casual ownership. She accepted her martini without looking at me, already focused on her next performance. "Everyone! Everyone!" Laura stood up, swaying slightly. She'd been drinking since 4 o'clock. "I want to make an announcement." The room quieted. I stayed near the kitchen doorway, watching faces. Some looked excited, others uncomfortable. Ross Martinez, my old college buddy, caught my eye and shrugged apologetically. He'd tried to warn me about Laura years ago. As you all know, Mark and I have been married for 12 wonderful years. Laura's voice carried across the room like she was addressing a board meeting. But I've been doing some thinking lately about growth, about evolution, about not letting fear hold us back from new experiences. Alex smirked from the couch. Ellen clasped her hands together like she was watching a rom-com. Several neighbors shifted uncomfortably. So I want to announce that Mark and I are implementing new rules in our marriage. Rules that will allow us both to explore connections with other people, to grow as individuals while maintaining our partnership. The silence stretched like taffy. Someone coughed. A glass clinked against a table. Laura beamed at me expectantly. Mark, don't you want to say something about our new arrangement? Every eye in the room turned toward me. I could feel their pity, their embarrassment, their morbid curiosity about how the cuckolded husband would respond. Laura's smile was bright and sharp, confident in her control of the situation. I stepped forward, raising my beer bottle. You're absolutely right, Laura. There should be new rules. Her smile widened triumphantly. Which is why I filed for divorce yesterday. The bottle slipped from Ellen's hand and shattered on the hardwood floor. Laura's face went through several expressions in rapid succession: confusion, disbelief, then panic. Mark, that's not... You can't just... Actually, I can. It's called no-fault divorce. Very straightforward. I looked around the room at all the shocked faces. I figured since you were planning to sleep with other people anyway, we might as well make it official. This is ridiculous, Laura's voice cracked. You're being dramatic. Am I? I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots I'd taken from her laptop the night before. Should I read some of these text messages between you and Alex? They're very creative. Alex stood up from the couch, his face flushed. Hey man, that's private. Not when you're doing it in my house, bro. I scrolled through the messages. Here's a good one from last Tuesday. Can't wait to feel your hands on me again. Mark's working late. Come over around 8. That was the night you told me you were having dinner with Ellen. Ellen made a small whimpering sound. Laura looked like she'd been slapped. Or this one from Alex. Your husband's a joke. When are you going to dump the loser? Very romantic stuff. The room was silent, except for the sound of someone's ice melting in their drink. Laura's carefully constructed social world was crumbling in real time, and everyone had front row seats. You had no right to look at my phone. Laura's voice was shrill now, desperate. You left it open on the kitchen counter. I was just cleaning up, being helpful. You know, boring husband stuff. Sarah appeared beside me with a dustpan, cleaning up Ellen's broken glass. She caught my eye and nodded almost imperceptibly. Whatever happened next, I wasn't alone. Look, this is between Mark and Laura, Ross said, trying to diffuse the situation. Maybe we should... No, it's fine. I pocketed my phone. Everyone should stay. After all, Laura loves an audience. Laura was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks, but her tears looked calculated, performed. Even her breakdown was staged for maximum sympathy. I never meant for it to happen, she sobbed. It just did. These things just happen sometimes. Things don't just happen, Laura. People make choices. I looked at Alex, who was edging toward the door. Going somewhere, champ? I don't need this drama, man. Drama? You've been screwing my wife for 3 months and you think I'm being dramatic? Several people gasped. Mrs. Henderson from down the street looked like she might faint. Her husband was filming with his phone, probably already posting to Facebook. It's not what you think, Alex said weakly. Really? Because I think it's exactly what everyone else thinks. You're a cliché, Alex. The young trainer seducing the bored housewife. It's so predictable, it's almost boring. Laura stood up shakily. Stop it, Mark. Just stop. We can work this out. We don't need to air our private business. Private? You announced your open marriage plan to 40 people. You made our business public the moment you decided to humiliate me in my own living room. I looked around at the faces staring back at me. Neighbors, clients, friends. Some looked sympathetic, others uncomfortable. A few seemed to be enjoying the show. But here's the thing about new rules, I continued. They work both ways. Laura wants freedom. She's got it. She wants to explore new connections. She can explore them from her own apartment. You can't throw me out. This is my house too. Actually, it's not. It's in my name, bought with my money before we were married. Check the deed. The color drained from Laura's face. She'd never paid attention to paperwork, always left the boring stuff to me. The prenup you signed covers this situation pretty thoroughly, I added. My lawyer was very thorough. What prenup? We never signed a prenup, I smiled. Check the papers you signed when we refinanced 2 years ago. You thought you were just signing mortgage documents. It was a lie, but Laura was too drunk and panicked to think clearly. The doubt in her eyes was worth the deception. Ellen finally found her voice. This is insane, Mark. You're being vindictive. Vindictive? I'm being practical. Laura wants new rules. She gets them, just not the ones she expected. Alex had made it halfway to the door when I called out to him. Oh, Alex? You might want to check your car. I noticed some kids playing around it earlier. His face went pale. What did you do? Nothing, but you know how kids are. They get curious about expensive cars. He bolted for the door. Through the window, we could all hear him shouting obscenities at whatever he'd found. I'd spent the afternoon strategically placing shrimp in his air vents and loosening his valve caps. Nothing permanent, just expensive and embarrassing. Laura collapsed back onto the couch, sobbing harder now. But the performance was wearing thin. People were starting to gather their coats, mumbling excuses and avoiding eye contact. Party's over, folks, I announced. Thanks for coming. Laura will be in touch about rescheduling any upcoming events. From her new address. As the guests filed out, I caught Sarah lingering by the door. That was brutal, she said quietly. It was necessary. What happens now? I looked back at Laura, still crying on the couch while Ellen tried to comfort her. Alex was outside, presumably dealing with his shrimp-scented Porsche. Now we see how Laura handles her new rules. Sarah smiled. I don't think she's going to like them very much. No, I agreed. I don't think she is. The next morning, Laura was gone. She'd packed a bag sometime before dawn and left without a word, probably to Ellen's house or maybe Alex's place. She'd taken her clothes, her jewelry, and my coffee maker out of spite. But she'd left her laptop behind, still logged into all her accounts. I spent the morning going through her emails and social media, documenting everything. Not for the divorce, that was already in motion, but for what came next. Laura had built her entire identity around being the perfect wife and successful event planner. She'd cultivated an image of sophistication and control that her clients paid premium prices for. Time to show them who she really was. Sarah came by around noon with coffee and bagels. She looked tired but determined. How are you holding up? She asked. Better than expected. You? Ellen's been calling me all morning. She's furious. At Laura? At you. She thinks you blindsided Laura unfairly. I laughed. Unfairly? Laura was planning to announce her affair at her own birthday party, and I'm the unfair one? Ellen sees it as Laura being honest about her needs. She thinks you should have been more understanding. Of course she does. I handed Sarah a cup of coffee. What about you? What do you think? Sarah was quiet for a moment, considering. I think Laura's been taking you for granted for years. I think she got comfortable believing she could do whatever she wanted without consequences. And now? Now she's about to learn different. We spent the afternoon planning. Sarah knew Laura's schedule, her clients, her social circle. She knew where Laura would be most vulnerable, most exposed. It felt strange, plotting against my wife with her best friend, but Sarah seemed as fed up with Laura's behavior as I was. She's been treating everyone like props in her personal drama, Sarah explained. Me, you, even Ellen. We're just supporting characters in the Laura show. Why are you helping me? Sarah stirred her coffee thoughtfully. Because someone needs to, and because Laura's not the friend I thought she was. That evening, I got a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Meet me at Rossetti's at 8. Come alone. L. Rossetti's was an upscale Italian place downtown where Laura liked to meet clients. Neutral territory, public enough to prevent a scene. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table wearing sunglasses despite the dim lighting. You look terrible, I said, sliding into the seat across from her. Thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Her voice was hoarse, probably from crying or screaming. Maybe both. How's Ellen's couch? I'm staying at Alex's. Ah, how's that working out? Laura removed her sunglasses, revealing red-rimmed eyes and smeared makeup. He's not exactly the supportive type. Shocking. The guy who calls your husband a loser isn't emotionally available? Don't be an ass, Mark. I'm not being an ass, I'm being honest. For the first time in years, actually. The waiter approached cautiously, probably sensing the tension. Laura ordered wine. I stuck with water. Look, Laura said once we were alone again. I know you're angry. You have every right to be, but this doesn't have to get ugly. Ugly? Laura, you tried to humiliate me in front of our friends and neighbors. It's already ugly. I was trying to be honest about what I needed. I thought if we could just talk about it openly. You thought you could manipulate me into accepting your affair by making it public. You thought I'd be too embarrassed to say no in front of everyone. Laura's face flushed. That's not... I wasn't trying to manipulate anyone. Then why not talk to me privately first? Why make it a public announcement? She didn't have an answer for that. The wine arrived, and she drank half the glass in one gulp. I want to work this out, she said finally. Work what out? The divorce is already filed. We can stop it. We can go to counseling, figure out what went wrong. I know what went wrong. You decided you were too good for your marriage. That's not fair. Fair? I leaned forward. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been you talking to me before you started sleeping with Alex. Fair would have been you treating me with basic respect instead of like an ATM with legs. Laura's eyes filled with tears again. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. And not just me. You hurt Sarah. You embarrassed Ellen. You turned our home into a circus. All for what? A guy who won't even let you stay at his place. He said I could stay on his couch. I saw the texts, remember? Laura deflated. What do you want from me, Mark? Nothing. I want nothing from you. I want you to sign the divorce papers, take your things, and start your new life with your new rules. And if I don't, I smiled, then things get interesting. Laura stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. The Mark who'd put up with her crap for years was gone, replaced by someone who'd finally run out of patience. You're different, she said. I'm awake. I don't like this version of you. You don't have to. You chose Alex, remember? Laura finished her wine and signaled for another. People are talking. Let them talk. It's affecting my business. Mrs. Henderson canceled her anniversary party. The Johnsons are asking for their deposit back. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to air our private life in public. You're the one who brought up the texts. After you announced your open marriage plan to 40 people, what did you expect me to do, smile and congratulate you? The waiter brought Laura's second glass of wine and quickly retreated. Other diners were starting to stare. I expected you to be mature about it, Laura said. Mature? You want mature? Here's mature. I'm not going to fight you on the divorce. I'm not going to drag this out or make it harder than it needs to be. You want out? You're out. Just like that? Just like that. Laura looked confused, like she'd been prepared for a different conversation. What about counseling? What about fighting for our marriage? You already fought for our marriage. You lost. That's not... I made a mistake, Mark. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. A series of choices over months. You chose Alex. You chose to lie to me. You chose to humiliate me. Now you get to live with those choices. Laura was crying again, but quietly this time. Real tears, not the performed ones from the night before. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Of what?" "Of being alone. Of starting over. Of everyone knowing what I did." "You should have thought about that before. Can't you forgive me? Can't we try again?" I looked at this woman I'd been married to for 12 years, really looked at her. The perfectly styled hair, the expensive clothes, the manicured nails. All surface, no substance. I'd been in love with an image, not a person. "No," I said simply. "I can't." Laura finished her second glass of wine in silence. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, harder, more calculating. "You know this is going to get messy," she said. "How so?" "I have friends, connections, people who will take my side." "Like Ellen?" "Like Ellen. Like Detective Morrison from the country club. Like Judge Patterson's wife, who books all her events through me." I felt a chill. Laura was threatening me, trying to use her social connections as weapons. "Are you saying you're going to lie about me? Make false accusations?" "I'm saying I'm not going to just disappear quietly. If you want a war, Mark, you'll get one." I stood up and dropped a 20 on the table. "Then I guess we're at war." The war started the next morning with a phone call from Detective James Morrison. Not the Morrison Laura had mentioned. That was his wife Patricia, one of Laura's country club friends. James was younger, more professional, less likely to do favors for socialites. "Mr. Brennan, this is Detective Morrison with the city police. I'd like to ask you a few questions about an incident last night." "What kind of incident?" "Vandalism. Someone damaged a red Porsche registered to Alex Hartwell. He says you threatened him at a party 2 nights ago." I almost laughed. "I told him kids might have been playing around his car. That's hardly a threat." "He seems to think otherwise. Would you be willing to come in for a statement?" "Do I need a lawyer?" "That's up to you. This is just preliminary." I agreed to meet him that afternoon. After hanging up, I called Sarah. "Laura's making her move," I told her. "Already?" "She's got Alex filing vandalism charges, probably hoping to make me look unstable for the divorce proceedings." "That's ridiculous. Half the party saw you inside when Alex found his car." "Can you prove that?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Actually, yes. I was filming Laura's announcement on my phone. You're clearly visible in the background the whole time." "You filmed it?" "I thought you might need evidence later. Turns out I was right." I met with Detective Morrison at 3 o'clock. He was professional but skeptical, clearly going through the motions to appease Alex's complaint. "Mr. Hartwell says you've been harassing him and your wife," Morrison said, reading from his notes. "Harassing them how?" "He says you've been following him, making threatening phone calls, sending hostile text messages." "I've never called him or texted him. I saw him once at the party, that's it." "He has phone records showing calls from your number." I pulled out my phone and showed him my call log. "Check the times. Cross-reference with cell tower data. I haven't called anyone except my lawyer and a few friends." Morrison made notes. "What about the vandalism to his vehicle?" "What about it?" "He says you threatened to damage it." "I said kids might have been playing around it. That's not a threat. That's an observation. Kids play around expensive cars all the time." "Did you put shrimp in his air conditioning vents?" I looked genuinely puzzled. "Shrimp? Why would I do that?" "So you deny vandalizing his car?" "I deny everything. I was inside my house all evening, hosting a party. I have 40 witnesses." Morrison closed his notebook. "Mr. Brennan, I'm going to be straight with you. This complaint feels like relationship drama, not criminal activity. But if there are any more incidents, any more accusations, this is going to escalate. Do you understand?" "Perfectly." "Good. Stay away from Mr. Hartwell and your wife while the divorce is pending. Let your lawyers handle everything." I agreed and left the station. But as I walked to my car, I spotted a familiar figure across the street. Ellen Hartley, sitting in her Mercedes, talking on her phone and watching the police station. She'd been keeping tabs on me. Time to return the favor. That evening, Sarah and I met at a coffee shop downtown to plan our next move. She'd brought her laptop and a folder full of printed emails. "I've been going through Laura's social media accounts," she said. "She's been telling people you're having a breakdown, that you're unstable and possibly dangerous." Of course she is. It gets worse. She's been messaging your clients, telling them you're going through a difficult time and might not be reliable for real estate transactions. I felt my jaw clench. She's trying to sabotage my business. Ellen's been helping. They've been coordinating their stories, making sure everyone in their social circle hears the same version of events. Sarah showed me screenshots of Facebook messages, text conversations, email threads. Laura and Ellen had been busy, painting me as an unstable husband who'd snapped when confronted with his wife's honest communication about her needs. "They're making you the villain," Sarah said. "Then maybe it's time to give them a real villain." "What do you mean?" I pulled up Laura's Instagram account on my phone. She'd been posting all morning, inspirational quotes about finding your truth and living authentically, mixed with photos of herself looking tragic and beautiful. "Laura's built her whole brand around being perfect," I said. "Perfect wife, perfect event planner, perfect life. What happens when people see she's not perfect?" "You want to expose her affair publicly?" "I want to expose everything. The lies, the manipulation, the way she treats people. Let her clients and friends see who she really is." Sarah looked uncomfortable. "That seems harsh." "Harsh? She's trying to destroy my reputation and my business. She's telling people I'm dangerous. How is defending myself harsh?" "I guess it's not. It's just, once you do this, there's no going back." "There's already no going back." Laura made sure of that. We spent the next hour planning. Sarah had access to Laura's email accounts, her client database, her social media. She knew Laura's schedule, her upcoming events, her biggest clients. "The Henderson anniversary party is this Saturday," Sarah said. "Laura's been planning it for 6 months. It's her biggest event of the year." "What kind of event?" 50-year anniversary celebration. 200 guests, including the mayor and half the city council. It's at the country club." "Sounds important?" "Very. If it goes well, Laura gets recommended to all their friends. If it goes badly, she loses everything." Sarah nodded. "The Hendersons are social royalty around here. One bad word from them and Laura's business is finished. Then we make sure it goes badly." "How?" I smiled. "We give Laura exactly what she wants. A public platform to show everyone who she really is." Saturday arrived gray and drizzling, which seemed appropriate for what I had planned. The Henderson anniversary party was scheduled to start at 6 o'clock, giving me all day to prepare. Sarah had done her part perfectly. She'd volunteered to help with setup, giving her access to the country club's AV system. She'd also, accidentally, double-booked the photographer, creating chaos that would keep Laura distracted. I arrived at the country club at 5:30, dressed in my best suit and carrying a small gift bag. The parking lot was already filling with expensive cars, Mercedes, BMWs, a few Bentleys, Laura's crowd. Inside, the main ballroom was decorated in gold and white, elegant and understated. Laura had done good work, I had to admit. Too bad it was about to be ruined. I spotted Laura near the entrance, directing staff and checking her tablet obsessively. She looked stunning in a black cocktail dress, her hair and makeup perfect despite the stress. She saw me and froze. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, pulling me aside. "I'm here for the anniversary party. I was invited." "By who?" "Mr. Henderson. We've done business together. He bought his lake house through my agency." Laura's face went pale. She'd forgotten about my professional relationship with her biggest client. "You need to leave. Now." "Why?" "I'm not breaking any laws. I'm not violating the restraining order you never actually filed. I'm just here to celebrate 50 years of marriage. Mark, please, don't do this. Whatever you're planning, don't do it here. I'm not planning anything. I'm just here to enjoy the party. Laura looked around frantically, probably wondering if she could have me thrown out without causing a scene. She couldn't, and we both knew it. Stay away from me, she said finally. Don't worry. I'll be the perfect gentleman. The party started smoothly. Guests arrived, drinks were served, conversations flowed. Laura worked the room like a professional, charming clients and managing details. For a moment, I almost felt bad about what was coming. Almost. At 7:30, Mr. Henderson called for attention. He was a distinguished man in his 70s, silver-haired and commanding. The room quieted respectfully. Thank you all for being here tonight, he began. 50 years ago, I married my best friend, and tonight we celebrate not just our anniversary, but all the love and friendship that has enriched our lives. Applause filled the room. Mrs. Henderson beamed beside her husband, radiant despite her age. Before we continue with dinner, I'd like to invite our wonderful event planner, Laura Brennan, to say a few words about tonight's celebration. Laura stepped forward, smiling graciously. She looked confident and professional, every inch the successful businesswoman. Thank you, Robert. It's been my absolute pleasure to plan this beautiful evening for you and Margaret. 50 years of marriage is truly inspiring, especially in today's world where commitment and fidelity seem to be. She paused, her smile faltering slightly as she caught sight of me in the crowd. Where commitment seems to be challenging for so many people. I raised my champagne glass in a mock toast. Laura's smile became strained. But you two have shown us what real love looks like, what it means to honor your vows, to stay faithful through good times and bad, to put your marriage above your own selfish desires. The irony was delicious. Laura was lecturing a room full of people about marital fidelity, while her own affair was the talk of the town. So let's toast to Robert and Margaret Henderson, Laura concluded, raising her own glass. To 50 years of love, loyalty, and keeping your promises. The room erupted in applause and toasts. Laura smiled and nodded, accepting congratulations for her touching words. She thought she'd gotten through it safely. She was wrong. As the applause died down, I stepped forward. Actually, I'd like to add something if I may. Mr. Henderson nodded politely. Of course, Mark. Please. Laura's face went white. She tried to signal me to stop, but it was too late. I just wanted to thank Laura for her beautiful words about commitment and fidelity. They're particularly meaningful coming from someone who understands the importance of honoring your vows. A few people nodded approvingly. They had no idea what was coming. In fact, Laura has been so passionate about exploring the boundaries of marriage lately. Just last week, she announced her belief that couples should have the freedom to form connections with other people. She called them new rules for modern relationships. The room was still polite, but I could sense confusion. This wasn't typical anniversary party conversation. Of course, Laura has been practicing what she preaches. She's been exploring a very close connection with her fitness trainer, Alex Hartwell. Very close, very physical. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Laura looked like she might faint. Mark, stop, she whispered. But I was just getting started. I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots I'd prepared. In fact, Laura has been quite eloquent about her new relationship. Would you like to hear some of her messages to Alex? They're very passionate, very detailed. That's enough! Laura lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. Here's a good one from last Tuesday. I can't stop thinking about what you did to me in the hotel room. When can we do it again? The room erupted. People gasped, whispered, pulled out their own phones to record. Mrs. Henderson looked shocked. Mr. Henderson looked furious. Or this one. Mark is working late again. Come over and we can finish what we started in your car. Stop it! Laura was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Please, just stop. But wait, there's more. Alex had some interesting things to say too, like this gem, your husband is pathetic. I can't believe you stayed married to that loser for so long. The crowd was in chaos now. People were talking, filming, taking pictures. Laura's perfect event was becoming a social media disaster in real time. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced, raising my voice over the noise, I present to you Laura Brennan, event planner extraordinaire and expert on modern marriage. She'll be happy to plan your next celebration, assuming she's not too busy exploring her own new rules. Laura collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Ellen rushed to her side, shooting me a look of pure hatred. But the damage was done. The room was buzzing with scandal and gossip. Mr. Henderson approached me, his face stern. Mark, I think you should leave. Of course, I've said what I came to say. I looked around the room at all the shocked faces, the phones recording, the whispered conversations. Congratulations on 50 years of marriage. May you never need new rules. I walked out of the ballroom with my head high, leaving Laura's reputation in ruins behind me. In the parking lot, I could hear the chaos continuing inside, raised voices, slamming doors, the sound of Laura's world collapsing. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Holy shit, that was brutal. Are you okay? I typed back, never better. But as I drove home, I felt a strange emptiness. The revenge had been satisfying, but it hadn't fixed anything. Laura was still gone, my marriage was still over, and I was still alone. The difference was, now Laura was alone too. The fallout from the Henderson party was swift and brutal. By Sunday morning, videos of my speech were all over social media. Local gossip blogs picked up the story. Laura's business phone rang constantly with cancellations. I spent the weekend at home, ignoring calls from reporters and deleting friend requests from strangers who wanted front-row seats to the drama. The whole thing felt surreal, like watching someone else's life implode on reality TV. Monday morning brought a knock at my door. I opened it to find Detective Morrison looking tired and annoyed. Mr. Brennan, we need to talk. About what? About the restraining order your wife filed this morning, about the harassment charges, about the very public scene you made at the country club. I invited him in and made coffee. Morrison sat at my kitchen table, reviewing his notes. Mrs. Brennan says you've been stalking her, threatening her, trying to destroy her business out of spite. I went to a public event I was invited to. I made a speech. Everything I said was true. You humiliated her in front of 200 people. She humiliated me first, in front of 40 people in my own living room. Morrison sighed. This isn't how adults handle marital problems. Adults don't announce their affairs at birthday parties either. Look, I get it. You're angry. You have every right to be. But this has to stop. The harassment, the public confrontations, all of it. What harassment? I haven't contacted Laura since our dinner last week. Morrison pulled out a folder. She has records of phone calls from your number, threatening messages, photos of her apartment building like you've been watching her. I stared at him. That's impossible. I haven't called her once since she moved out. She has proof. Then someone's lying. Check my phone records. Check cell tower data. I haven't been anywhere near her apartment. Morrison made notes. She also says you broke into her car and left threatening notes. When? Last Friday, outside her gym. I was showing houses all day Friday. I have appointments, witnesses, GPS records from my car. You could have hired someone. To do what? Leave notes in her car? Why would I do that when I could just call her? Morrison was starting to look skeptical. She seems pretty convinced you're behind all this. Maybe she's trying to make me look unstable for the divorce. Maybe she's lying to get sympathy. Maybe she's just paranoid because she knows what she did was wrong. Or maybe you're harassing your ex-wife and lying about it. I pulled out my phone and showed him my call log, my GPS history, my calendar. Check it all. Cross-reference everything. You'll see I'm telling the truth. Morrison spent an hour going through my records. When he finished, he looked confused. Your alibi checks out for Friday. And these phone records, the calls to your wife came from your number, but they were routed through a spoofing service. Someone's impersonating me? Looks like it. This is getting complicated. Detective, someone is trying to frame me. They're using my phone number to harass Laura, then using her complaints to make me look guilty. Who would do that? I thought about Ellen's Mercedes outside the police station, about Laura's threats at dinner, about Alex's vindictive personality. Someone who wants me out of the picture permanently. Morrison closed his folder. I'm going to investigate this further. In the meantime, stay away from your wife. Don't contact her. Don't go places where she might be. Don't even drive past her apartment. If someone is trying to frame you, don't give them more ammunition. After he left, I called Sarah. Someone's been impersonating me, I told her, making threatening calls to Laura, leaving notes in her car. That's insane. Who would do that? Someone who benefits from making me look unstable. Someone who wants Laura to get a restraining order, maybe even have me arrested. Ellen? Maybe. Or Alex. Or both of them working together. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Mark, there's something I need to tell you. What? Ellen called me yesterday. She wanted to know if you'd ever threatened me, ever made me feel unsafe. What did you tell her? The truth. That you've never been anything but respectful. But she kept pushing, asking leading questions, trying to get me to say you were unstable or dangerous. She's building a case against me. It gets worse. She offered me money to say you'd been harassing me too, $5,000 to file a complaint saying you'd been stalking me. I felt sick. Did you take it? Of course not. But Mark, if she's willing to pay me to lie, she might be paying other people too. We need proof. I recorded the conversation. You what? I had a feeling she was up to something, so I recorded our phone call. It's all there. The bribery attempt, her asking me to lie, everything. I could have kissed her. Sarah, you're brilliant. I'm also scared. If Ellen's willing to frame you for harassment, what else is she willing to do? That was a good question, and I was about to find out the answer. The answer came Tuesday night, in the form of a brick through my living room window. I was watching TV when I heard the crash of breaking glass. By the time I got to the window, whoever had thrown it was gone. But they'd left their message behind, spray-painted on my driveway in red letters. Leave her alone. I called the police, and Detective Morrison arrived within an hour. He photographed the damage, collected the brick, and took my statement. Any idea who might have done this? He asked. Someone who wants to make me look like a victim to throw suspicion off themselves. Or someone who's genuinely angry about what you did to your wife. Detective, think about it. If someone really wanted to scare me, why spray paint a message? Why not just throw the brick and leave? This is theater. Morrison examined the spray paint more closely. It's still wet. Fresh. Whoever did this wanted to be sure you'd see it before the paint dried. They wanted to be sure you'd see it too. This whole thing is staged. For what purpose? To make me look like I'm escalating the situation. Tomorrow, Laura will probably claim I threw the brick myself to make her look bad. Or she'll say it proves I'm dangerous and need to be arrested. Morrison's radio crackled. He answered it, listened for a moment, then looked at me with surprise. We just got a call about a disturbance at your wife's apartment. Someone was seen trying to break in about an hour ago. An hour ago? I was here. You can check my security cameras. We will. But this is getting out of hand, Mr. Brennan. Whether you're behind it or not, these incidents are escalating. Because someone wants them to escalate. They want chaos, confusion, evidence that I'm unstable. Morrison left to check on Laura's apartment. I spent the rest of the night boarding up my window and reviewing my security footage. The cameras clearly showed me inside all evening, ruling me out as the brick thrower. But they also showed something else. A figure in dark clothing had approached my house around 9 o'clock, thrown the brick, spray-painted the message, and left in what looked like a small SUV. The license plate wasn't visible, but the vehicle looked familiar. It looked like Ellen's Mercedes. Wednesday morning brought more bad news. Laura had filed an emergency restraining order, claiming the break-in attempt at her apartment proved I was dangerous and escalating my harassment. My lawyer, David Chen, called me at 7 a.m. "Mark, we have a problem. The judge granted Laura's restraining order based on the pattern of incidents, the phone calls, the notes, the break-in attempt. But I have alibis for all of those things. Alibis don't matter if the judge thinks you hired someone to do it for you. This is insane. It gets worse. Laura's also claiming you've been threatening her friends, trying to turn people against her, interfering with her business relationships. I gave one speech at a public event. A speech where you read private text messages and humiliated her in front of 200 people. The judge sees that as harassment." I felt the walls closing in. Someone had orchestrated this perfectly. A series of incidents that made me look unstable and vindictive, followed by a restraining order that would make me look even more guilty. "David, someone is framing me. They're impersonating me, staging incidents, trying to make me look dangerous. Can you prove that?" "I'm working on it." "Work faster, because if there are any more incidents, any more complaints, you're going to be arrested." After hanging up, I called Sarah. She sounded scared. "Ellen's been asking questions about you again," she said. "She wants to know your schedule, where you go, who you see. She's planning something. Mark, I think you should disappear for a while. Go stay with a friend, leave town, something. This is getting dangerous. If I run, it makes me look guilty. If you stay, you might get arrested for something you didn't do." She had a point, but running away felt like giving up, letting Laura and Ellen win. "There's something else," Sarah continued. "I've been watching Ellen's social media. She's been posting about protecting friends from dangerous men and standing up to bullies. She's building a narrative." "What kind of narrative?" "That you're an abusive husband who snapped when your wife tried to leave. That you're stalking her, threatening her, trying to destroy her life out of spite." People believe that? Some do. The ones who don't know you personally, who only know Laura's version of events. I thought about the videos from the Henderson party, how they'd been edited and shared without context. To someone who didn't know the full story, I probably did look like a vindictive ex-husband publicly humiliating his wife. "Sarah, I need you to do something for me." "What?" "I need you to get close to Ellen. Find out what she's really planning." "How?" "Pretend you're having second thoughts about helping me. Tell her you think I'm getting out of control, that you're scared of me." "That's dangerous. If she thinks I'm turning against you, she'll trust you. She'll tell you things. We need to know what she's planning next." Sarah was quiet for a long moment. "Okay. But Mark, if this goes wrong, if she figures out I'm lying—" "She won't. You're a better actress than she is." I hoped I was right. Sarah's performance was Oscar-worthy. She called Ellen that afternoon, crying and scared, claiming I'd been acting erratically, and she was worried about what I might do next. Ellen took the bait immediately. "I knew this would happen," Ellen said, her voice full of false sympathy. "Men like Mark can't handle rejection. They get violent." "He hasn't been violent exactly," Sarah said carefully. "But he's been intense, angry. He talks about making Laura pay for what she did." "What kind of things does he say?" "That she deserves everything that's happening to her. That he's not done with her yet. That she's going to regret crossing him." It was all lies, of course, but Ellen ate it up. "Sarah, you need to stay away from him. He's dangerous." "I know. But I'm scared of what he'll do if I cut contact completely. He might turn on me next." "You should file a complaint with the police. Tell them he's been threatening you too." "I don't know. He hasn't actually threatened me directly." "But you feel threatened, right? You're scared of him." "Yes, but That's enough. Detective Morrison needs to know that Mark's pattern of behavior extends beyond Laura. It'll help them build a case. Sarah played her part perfectly, expressing reluctance while letting Ellen convince her to file a false complaint. By the end of the conversation, Ellen was practically writing Sarah's statement for her. But Sarah wasn't done. She agreed to meet Ellen for lunch the next day to discuss the situation further. What Ellen didn't know was that Sarah would be wearing a wire. Thursday's lunch meeting was held at an upscale cafe downtown. Sarah arrived early and chose a corner table with good acoustics. Her phone was recording everything. Ellen arrived looking pleased with herself, probably thinking she'd turned Laura's best friend against her dangerous ex-husband. "How are you holding up?" Ellen asked, settling into her seat. "Better. I've been thinking about what you said, about filing a complaint." "Good. The more evidence the police have, the better they can protect Laura." "Ellen, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you really think Mark is dangerous? I mean, really dangerous?" Ellen leaned forward conspiratorially. "Sarah, I've seen men like Mark before. They seem harmless until they snap, and Mark has definitely snapped. But some of the things that have happened, the phone calls, the break-in attempt, they seem almost too convenient, like someone wanted to make Mark look bad." Ellen's eyes narrowed slightly. "What do you mean?" "I mean, if Mark really wanted to harass Laura, why would he be so obvious about it? Why use his own phone number? Why leave evidence? Because he's not thinking clearly. He's consumed with rage. Or because someone else is doing it and wants him to get blamed." The silence stretched between them. Ellen was studying Sarah's face, looking for signs of deception. "That's a very interesting theory," Ellen said finally. "Do you have any evidence to support it?" "No, some things don't add up." "Like what?" "Like how you knew about the brick through Mark's window before it was reported in the news." Ellen froze. "What?" "Yesterday, when you called me, you mentioned the brick, but it hadn't been reported anywhere yet. How did you know about it?" Laura told me." "Laura wasn't there. She didn't see it happen. The only way you could have known about it was if you were involved." Ellen's face went pale, then flushed red. "Sarah, I think you're confused." "Am I? Or are you the one who's been making the threatening phone calls, leaving the notes, staging incidents to make Mark look unstable?" "That's ridiculous." "Is it? You have access to phone spoofing services through your marketing business. You know Laura's schedule, her apartment building, her routines. You have the means and the motive." Ellen stood up abruptly. "I don't have to listen to this." "Ellen, wait. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just trying to understand. You're working with him, aren't you? This whole thing is a setup." "What whole thing?" "The scared friend act, the lunch meeting, the recording device you're probably wearing. Mark sent you to trap me." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me, Sarah. I've been planning this for weeks. I know every move Mark's going to make before he makes it." "Planning what?" Ellen smiled, and it was the coldest thing Sarah had ever seen. "His complete destruction. By the time I'm done with him, he'll be in jail, bankrupt, and completely alone. Laura will be free to start over, and Mark will get exactly what he deserves." "Ellen, this is insane. You can't just frame someone." "I can, and I am. And you just became an accessory." Ellen pulled out her phone and dialed 911. "Yes, I'd like to report a kidnapping in progress. A man named Mark Brennan has taken me hostage at the Riverside Cafe. He's armed and threatening to kill me if his demands aren't met." Sarah stared in horror as Ellen calmly gave the dispatcher false information, describing a hostage situation that wasn't happening. "Ellen, stop. This is crazy." "No, Sarah. This is justice." Ellen hung up and smiled. "The police will be here in 5 minutes. When they arrive, they'll find me terrified and traumatized, and you'll be nowhere to be found. I'll tell them Mark forced you to lure me here, then took you with him when he fled." "But Mark isn't even here." "No, but his car is parked outside. I saw him drive past 20 minutes ago." Very convenient. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it and felt her heart stop. It was from Mark. On my way to meet you. Running late. Be there in 10 minutes. Ellen had seen the text, too. Perfect timing. When Mark shows up, the police will think he's returning to the scene. They'll arrest him on the spot. Ellen, please. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly. I'm protecting my friend from a dangerous man, and if a few lies are necessary to make that happen, so be it. Sarah could hear sirens in the distance, getting closer. She had maybe 3 minutes before the police arrived, and Mark was walking into a trap. She had to warn him. Sarah's fingers flew over her phone, typing frantically. Don't come to cafe, trap, Ellen called police. Stay away. She hit send just as the first police car pulled into the parking lot, lights flashing. Ellen was already in performance mode, tears streaming down her face as she flagged down the officers. Thank God you're here, she sobbed. He just left. He took Sarah with him. 2 officers approached cautiously, hands on their weapons. Ma'am, are you injured? Do you need medical attention? No, I'm okay. But Sarah, he dragged her out of here. She was screaming. I think he has a gun. Sarah stood up from her table, confused. Ellen, what are you talking about? I'm right here. The officers looked between the 2 women, clearly puzzled. Ma'am, one of them said to Ellen, you reported a kidnapping, but this woman appears to be unharmed. Ellen's face went through several expressions rapidly: confusion, panic, then calculation. He must have let her go, but he was here. Mark Brennan was here, and he threatened to kill me. Is that true? The officer asked Sarah. No, it's not true. Mark isn't here. Ellen and I were having lunch, and she started acting strange. Then she called 911 and made up a story about being kidnapped. That's not what happened, Ellen protested. She's lying. She's working with him. More police cars arrived. Detective Morrison stepped out of one of them, looking tired and annoyed. What's the situation? He asked his officers. Unclear, sir. We got a kidnapping report, but the alleged victim is here and unharmed. The other woman says it was a false report. Morrison looked at Ellen, then at Sarah. Ms. Hartley, you called in a kidnapping? Yes. Mark Brennan took me hostage. He threatened to kill me. Where is Mr. Brennan now? Ellen hesitated. He left. When he heard the sirens. But you just told my officers he took the other woman with him. Now you're saying she's here and he's gone? I was confused, traumatized. Morrison's radio crackled. He answered it, listened for a moment, then looked at Ellen with suspicion. Ms. Hartley, we just confirmed that Mr. Brennan is at his office across town. He's been there all afternoon, in meetings with clients, multiple witnesses. Ellen's face went white. That's impossible. Is it? Or did you file a false police report? I thought, ma'am, filing a false police report is a crime. So is making false accusations. I think you need to come with us. As the officers led Ellen away, she turned back to Sarah with pure hatred in her eyes. This isn't over, she hissed. I'll destroy him. I'll destroy both of you. Sarah watched the police car drive away, her hands shaking from adrenaline. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mark. Got your message. Are you okay? She typed back, Ellen's been arrested. It's over. But even as she wrote the words, she wondered if that was really true. Ellen had been planning this for weeks, she'd said. What other traps had she set? What other lies had she told? Sarah had a feeling the real battle was just beginning. Ellen's arrest made the local news that evening. The story was simple. A woman had filed false police reports and made fraudulent kidnapping claims as part of a personal vendetta, but the details were more complicated. Detective Morrison called me at home to explain what they'd found. We searched Ms. Hartley's house and car, he said, found phone spoofing software on her computer, along with detailed plans for framing you. She'd been documenting everything: your schedule, your habits, your vulnerabilities. How long had she been planning this? Months, maybe since before your wife's affair became public. She saw you as a threat to Laura's happiness and decided to eliminate you. By having me arrested? By having you committed. She was building a case that you were mentally unstable and dangerous. The plan was to get you involuntarily committed for psychiatric evaluation, which would have destroyed your reputation and your business. I felt sick. What about the threatening phone calls? The break-in attempt? All her. She used spoofing software to make calls from your number, hired a kid from her neighborhood to leave notes in Laura's car, even staged the break-in herself. She was very thorough. And Laura, did she know? Morrison was quiet for a moment. That's unclear. Mrs. Brennan claims she had no idea what Ms. Hartley was doing, but some of the evidence suggests otherwise. What kind of evidence? Text messages between them discussing your behavior, your mental state, your potential for violence. Nothing explicitly criminal, but suggestive. You think Laura was involved? I think your wife was very upset about the public humiliation you caused her. Whether she actively participated in Ms. Hartley's plan or just turned a blind eye to it, I can't say. After Morrison hung up, I sat in my living room staring at the boarded-up window. Ellen was in jail, but the damage was done. My reputation was in shambles, my marriage was over, and half the town thought I was an unstable stalker. Laura called an hour later. Mark, it's me. I know. I heard about Ellen. I'm sorry. Are you? Of course I am. I never wanted things to go this far. But you knew what she was doing. Silence. Laura? You knew, didn't you? I knew she was angry about what you did at the Henderson party. I knew she wanted to protect me, but I didn't know about the false reports. But you knew about something. More silence. Laura, the police found text messages between you two, messages about my mental state, my potential for violence. You were feeding her information. I was scared, Mark. After what you did at the party, I didn't know what you might do next. So you decided to have me committed? No, I never wanted that. I wanted you to leave me alone. I was leaving you alone. The divorce was proceeding, I wasn't contacting you, I was staying away. But that wasn't enough for you, was it? Mark, please, can we meet somewhere? Talk about this in person? Why? Because I want to make things right. I want to apologize properly. I almost laughed. Apologize? Laura, your best friend tried to have me arrested on false charges. She tried to destroy my life completely, and you helped her. I didn't help her. You gave her information. You encouraged her paranoia. You let her believe I was dangerous when you knew I wasn't. I was confused, hurt. I wasn't thinking clearly. No, you were thinking very clearly. You saw an opportunity to get rid of me permanently, and you took it. Laura started crying. That's not true. I never wanted to hurt you. You just wanted to humiliate me, destroy my reputation, and have me locked up in a mental institution, but you didn't want to hurt me. Mark, please, I know I made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can start over. Start over. Laura, there is no starting over. There's no going back. You crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. What does that mean? I looked around my empty house, at the boarded window and the spray-painted driveway, at the life Laura and Ellen had tried to destroy. It means the game has changed. Ellen played by her rules, and she lost. Now we're going to play by mine. Mark, you're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. Because everything that's happened so far, that was just the opening act. I hung up and turned off my phone. It was time to end this once and for all. But first, I had some planning to do. The plan came to me over the weekend, elegant in its simplicity. Ellen had tried to destroy me using lies and manipulation. Laura had tried to humiliate me in public. They'd both underestimated me, treated me like a victim who would quietly disappear. Time to show them what a real predator looked like. Monday morning, I called in sick to work and drove to the county courthouse. Ellen was being held on charges of filing false police reports and harassment, but her bail hearing was scheduled for that afternoon. I wanted to be there. The courtroom was nearly empty, just Ellen, her lawyer, a few court officials, and me in the back row. Ellen looked terrible, her usual perfect appearance replaced by jail-issued clothes and no makeup. When she saw me, her face went pale. The hearing was brief. Ellen's lawyer argued that she was a respected member of the community with no prior criminal record, that she'd acted out of concern for a friend's safety. The prosecutor countered that she'd orchestrated an elaborate scheme to frame an innocent man. The judge set bail at $50,000. Ellen's face crumpled when she realized she couldn't afford it. As the bailiff led her away, Ellen looked back at me one more time. I smiled and waved. She'd be spending at least another week in jail. That afternoon, I drove to Laura's new apartment. She was living in a converted warehouse downtown, the kind of trendy loft that looked expensive but was actually quite affordable. A far cry from our suburban McMansion. I didn't knock. Instead, I sat in my car across the street and waited. Laura emerged around 5 o'clock, dressed for a date. She looked around nervously, probably checking for signs that I was following her. When she didn't see me, she got into her car and drove away. I followed at a distance. She drove to an upscale restaurant downtown, the kind of place she'd taken me for our anniversary dinners back when we were happy. She was meeting someone, a man in his 50s, well-dressed, confident. Not Alex. I took photos through the restaurant window as they talked, laughed, touched hands across the table. Laura was already moving on, already finding her next victim. The man looked familiar. After a few minutes, I recognized him. David Patterson, a prominent local businessman. Married, with grown children. Very wealthy, very connected, very married. I smiled and took more photos. Tuesday morning, I created a fake social media account and began following David Patterson's wife, Margaret. She was active on Facebook and Instagram, constantly posting about her charity work, her garden club, her perfect family life. She had no idea her husband was cheating on her with a woman half his age. I spent the day gathering information about David and Margaret Patterson, their social circle, their business interests, their upcoming events. Margaret was hosting a charity luncheon on Friday, a big event for the local women's shelter. Perfect. Wednesday, I printed the photos of Laura and David at the restaurant, along with screenshots of Laura's social media posts about new beginnings and exciting opportunities. I packaged everything in a manila envelope with a note. Thought you should know what your husband is really doing for charity. I mailed it to Margaret Patterson. Thursday, I received a text from Sarah. Ellen made bail, she's out. I wasn't surprised. Ellen's family had money, connections. They'd find a way to get her released, but I was ready for her. Friday morning, Margaret Patterson's charity luncheon was the talk of the town's social media, not for the money raised or the cause supported, but for the spectacular scene Margaret had made when she confronted Laura in front of 200 women. According to the posts and videos, Margaret had stood up during Laura's presentation about second chances and announced that Laura was sleeping with her husband. She'd thrown the photos I'd sent her onto the stage, called Laura a home-wrecking whore, and stormed out. Laura had fled in tears. The luncheon had ended in chaos. And once again, Laura's professional reputation was in ruins, but I wasn't done yet. Friday afternoon, Ellen showed up at my house. I was waiting for her. "Hello, Ellen," I said, opening the door before she could knock. "Right on time." She looked haggard, angry, desperate. Jail had not been kind to her. "You bastard," she spat. "You set me up." "Did I? Or did you set yourself up by trying to frame an innocent man?" "Innocent? You destroyed Laura's life." "Laura destroyed her own life. I just made sure everyone knew about it. Ellen pushed past me into the house. This ends now, Mark. I'm done playing games. Good. So am I. I closed the door behind her and activated the recording app on my phone. Everything that happened next would be documented. What do you want, Ellen? I want you to leave Laura alone. Stop harassing her. Stop interfering with her life. Stop trying to destroy her. I'm not harassing anyone. I'm just making sure the truth comes out. The truth? The truth is that you're a vindictive ex-husband who can't accept that his wife fell out of love with him. The truth is that Laura is a cheating, manipulative narcissist who uses people and throws them away when she's done, just like she used you. Ellen's face flushed red. Laura is my friend. Laura is nobody's friend. She's a user. She used me for financial security. She used Alex for sex, and she used you to try to destroy me. When did she ever do anything for you that didn't benefit her somehow? Ellen opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. She was thinking, remembering. That's what I thought, I said. Face it, Ellen. You were just another prop in the Laura show, another supporting character in her personal drama. Shut up. How much money did you spend trying to frame me? How much time did you waste planning my destruction? And what did Laura do to help you when you got arrested? Did she visit you in jail? Did she pay your bail? Ellen's silence was answer enough. She abandoned you the moment you became a liability, just like she'll abandon David Patterson when his wife files for divorce, just like she abandoned Alex when things got complicated. I said, shut up! Ellen lunged at me, her hands reaching for my throat, but I was ready for her. I sidestepped, grabbed her wrist, and twisted her arm behind her back. That's assault, Ellen, on a recording device, in front of security cameras. I gestured toward the corners of the room, where small cameras were clearly visible. Ellen struggled against my grip. Let me go. In a minute. First, you're going to listen to me very carefully. I increased the pressure on her arm slightly, not enough to injure her, just enough to get her attention. You tried to destroy my life. You filed false police reports, made fraudulent accusations, and attempted to have me committed to a mental institution. You conspired with my wife to frame me for crimes I didn't commit. I was protecting Laura. You were satisfying your own need for control and drama. Laura was just an excuse. I released her arm and stepped back. Ellen rubbed her wrist, glaring at me with pure hatred. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to plead guilty to all charges against you. You're going to serve whatever sentence the judge gives you, and you're going to stay away from me and my business for the rest of your life. And if I don't? Then I release the recording of this conversation, along with all the evidence I've gathered about your conspiracy to frame me. I also release the photos of you throwing the brick through my window, which my security cameras captured perfectly. Ellen's face went white. You don't have photos of that. I pulled out my phone and showed her the footage, clear images of her approaching my house, throwing the brick, spray painting the message, and fleeing in her Mercedes. High-definition security cameras, motion activated, they caught everything. Ellen stared at the screen in horror. That's impossible. I checked for cameras. You checked for obvious cameras. You didn't check for the hidden ones. It was a lie. I'd only installed the obvious cameras after the brick incident, but Ellen was too panicked to think clearly. You can't use that. It's entrapment. It's evidence. Evidence that will send you to prison for a very long time. Ellen collapsed into my couch, her face in her hands. What do you want from me? I want you to disappear. Move away, change your name, start over somewhere else, and I want you to take Laura with you. Laura won't leave. This is her home. Laura's home is wherever she can find someone to use. Right now, that's not here. David Patterson's wife is filing for divorce and naming Laura as co-respondent. Laura's business is finished. Her reputation is destroyed. She has nothing left here. You did that. You destroyed everything she worked for. She destroyed it herself when she decided to cheat on her husband and humiliate him in public. I just made sure there were consequences. Ellen looked up at me with something like respect. You really are a bastard, aren't you? I'm a man who got tired of being treated like a doormat. There's a difference. She stood up slowly. Fine, I'll talk to Laura. But I can't promise she'll listen. She'll listen, because if she doesn't, if she stays here and keeps trying to rebuild her life on the ashes of other people's marriages, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who she is and what she's capable of. Ellen walked to the door, then turned back. You know this makes you just as bad as us, right? Maybe worse. Maybe. But I'm the one still standing. She left without another word. Through the window, I watched her drive away in her dented Mercedes, probably heading to Laura's apartment to deliver my ultimatum. I poured myself a drink and sat down to wait. Laura would call soon, probably crying, probably begging, probably threatening. But it wouldn't matter. The game was over, and I had won. My phone rang 20 minutes later. Mark, it's Laura. We need to talk. No, we don't. Ellen delivered my message, I assume. This is insane. You can't just force me to leave town. I'm not forcing you to do anything. I'm just making it clear that staying here isn't in your best interests. You've destroyed my business, my reputation, my relationships. What more do you want? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to realize that you can't just use people and throw them away without eventually paying a price. I never used you. You used me for 12 years. For financial security, social status, a comfortable lifestyle, and the moment you got bored, you decided to trade me in for a younger model. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. And when I didn't go quietly, when I fought back, you decided to destroy me completely. You and Ellen tried to have me committed, Laura. You tried to steal my freedom, my sanity, my life. Laura was crying now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go that far. But it did go that far. And now you have to live with the consequences. What if I don't leave? What if I stay and try to rebuild here? Then I'll make sure you never succeed. Every client you approach, every friend you try to make, every man you try to seduce, they'll all know exactly who you are and what you're capable of. You'll be a pariah. You can't watch me forever. I don't have to. You've made enough enemies on your own. Margaret Patterson, the Henderson family, half your former client base. They'll do the watching for me. The line was quiet for a long moment. I hate you, Laura whispered finally. I know. But you'll get over it. Somewhere else, with someone else's money. What about the divorce? Proceed as planned. I won't contest anything, won't ask for alimony or support. Just sign the papers and go. And if I do that, if I leave quietly, you'll leave me alone. As long as you stay gone, yes. Another long pause. Fine, Laura said finally. You win. I'll go. Smart choice. But Mark, this isn't over. Someday, somehow, I'll make you pay for what you've done to me. Maybe. But not today. And not from wherever you're going. I hung up and finished my drink. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. It looked like fire, like the end of something old and the beginning of something new. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Heard Ellen was at your house. Everything okay? I typed back, everything's perfect. It's over. Really over? Really over. Laura's leaving town. Ellen's going to prison. The divorce will be final in a few weeks. What about you? What happens now? I looked around my empty house, at the life I'd built and nearly lost, at the future that was suddenly wide open, full of possibilities I'd never considered. Now I start over, for real this time. Need any help with that? I smiled. I might. Are you free for dinner tomorrow?